Ah, the name Dracula. It echoes through the halls of history and fiction, a name that many people around the world know all too well. When we hear it, we often picture a dark figure, a creature of the night. But you know, Dracula is so much more than just a simple vampire from old stories. He represents this fascinating blend of a real historical ruler and a powerful, enduring legend. This makes him a truly unique character in our collective imagination, someone who continues to capture our interest. His story is complex, woven from threads of truth and terrifying fantasy, making him an endlessly compelling subject of study. So, why does this figure, King Dracula, hold such a strong grip on our minds? Well, he stands as a symbol of many things. He can represent our deepest fears, the allure of immense power, and the dream of living forever. For centuries, storytellers, writers and filmmakers have been drawn to him. They explore his darkness, his strange charm, and his tragic elements. He's not just a monster, he is often portrayed with a complex personality. This complexity is perhaps why we find him so endlessly fascinating, a dark mirror reflecting parts of ourselves and our societies. Dracula exists in two worlds at once. In one world, he was a real prince, a ruler in a turbulent time. His name was Vlad, and he governed a land called Wallachia. In the other world, he is Count Dracula, the undead nobleman, the most famous vampire in literature. This essay will journey through both of these worlds. We will look at the historical facts surrounding the man. We will also explore how the myth grew, becoming the powerful story we know today. Understanding both sides is key to understanding Dracula. Our journey will take us back in time. We will examine the life of the historical prince. We will see how his actions might have planted the seeds for the legend. Then we will look at how Bram Stoker's famous novel shaped the Dracula we recognize. Finally, we will consider Dracula's long shadow. We will see how he continues to influence books, movies, and our culture even now. Join me as we unravel the many layers of King Dracula, a figure who is both man and myth, forever shrouded in an alluring darkness. The historical person behind the Dracula legend was a prince named Vlad III. He was born in the early 15th century, around 1431, in a region called Sighisoara, Transylvania. This area is now part of modern-day Romania. His father was Vlad II, who was given the name Dracul. This name came from his membership in the Order of the Dragon, a group of knights dedicated to protecting Christianity in Eastern Europe. Young Vlad III would later inherit a version of this name, becoming known throughout history and legend. Vlad III ruled Wallachia, a principality south of Transylvania, at different times during the mid-1400s. His reigns were marked by constant war and political instability. The Ottoman Empire was a powerful force at that time, always trying to expand its territory into Europe. Vlad III was a fierce opponent of the Ottomans, fighting many battles to keep Wallachia independent. His leadership was defined by this struggle for survival against a much larger enemy, and his methods were often brutal, reflecting the harsh realities of his era. The name Vlad the Impaler reveals much about his rule. He was known for his extreme cruelty towards his enemies and even his own people if they opposed him. Impalement was his preferred method of execution. This involved putting people on sharp wooden stakes. It was a slow and agonizing death designed to create terror. Thousands of people, including Ottoman soldiers and disloyal Wallachian nobles, are said to have died this way. These acts earned him a fearsome reputation across Europe. The connection between Dracul and Dracula is important. As mentioned, Vlad II was Dracul, meaning the dragon. In Romanian, adding a to the end of a name can mean son of. So Vlad III became Dracula, or son of the dragon. However, Drac also meant devil in Romanian. So for some, Dracula could also mean son of the devil. This double meaning of his name, linking him to both a noble order and something more sinister, perhaps foreshadowed the dark legend that would later grow around him. So, how did a real historical ruler transform into the most famous vampire in the world? It's important to understand that Vlad the Impaler was not known as a vampire during his lifetime. The early stories about him focused on his cruelty and his brutal methods of warfare, not on any supernatural abilities like drinking blood or rising from the dead. These tales, however, laid the groundwork for later, more fantastical interpretations. The sheer scale of his reported violence made him a figure larger than life, ripe for legendary embellishment over time. After his death, Stories about Vlad's cruelty spread widely, especially in German-speaking lands and Russia. Printers produced pamphlets filled with gruesome details of his atrocities. These accounts described mass impalements, tortures, and other horrific acts. While some of these stories were likely exaggerated for political reasons, to paint him as a terrible tyrant, they cemented his image as a bloodthirsty ruler. These pamphlets were some of the first horror stories about him, even if they did not yet involve vampirism. They established his reputation for extreme violence. In Romania, Vlad's homeland, the oral traditions were more mixed. Some people remembered him as a harsh but fair leader. They saw him as a stern defender of their country against foreign invaders, a king who brought order through strict justice. However, other local tales passed down through generations might have whispered darker things. These stories, combined with the terrifying image from foreign pamphlets, created a complex figure in folklore. He was both a hero to some and a monster to others, a duality that fed into his legendary status. At the same time, Eastern Europe had a rich tradition of vampire folklore. Beliefs about the undead, creatures who returned from the grave to prey on the living, were quite common in many communities. These existing myths about vampires provided a fertile ground for Vlad's story. When Bram Stoker later researched Eastern European legends, he found these vampire tales. The connection between the historical Vlad with his bloodthirsty reputation and the existing vampire myths of the region would prove to be a powerful combination in creating the Count Dracula we know. The figure of Count Dracula, the sophisticated and terrifying vampire, was truly born in 1897. This was the year Irish author Bram Stoker published his novel Dracula. While Stoker did not invent the idea of vampires, creatures who drink blood had appeared in folklore and literature before. His book defined the character of Dracula for all time. He created a specific personality, a backstory, and a set of powers that have become iconic. The novel wove together threads of Gothic horror, adventure, and romance. Bram Stoker spent several years researching for his novel. He read extensively about Transylvanian history and folklore. He came across the name Dracula and learned about the historical Vlad the Impaler. He was particularly interested in accounts of Vlad's cruelty and his battles against the Turks. Stoker also studied existing vampire myths from Eastern Europe, noting their common themes and characteristics. He skillfully blended these elements, a historical name, a remote Eastern European setting, and vampire legends to create his unique antagonist. Interestingly, Stoker himself never actually visited Romania. In Stoker's novel, Count Dracula is an ancient nobleman from Transylvania. He's depicted as highly intelligent, cunning, and possessing an old-world charm that can be both alluring and unsettling. Beneath this sophisticated exterior, however, lies a monstrous being with supernatural powers. He can command wolves and bats, control the weather, and transform his shape. He is immortal, but he needs to drink human blood to sustain his unnatural life. His goal in the novel is to move from his crumbling castle to London, to spread his vampiric curse in a new, vibrant land. When Dracula was first published, its reception was generally positive, but it was not an immediate bestseller. Its popularity grew steadily over the years. The story tapped into the anxieties and fascinations of the late Victorian era, exploring themes of foreignness, sexuality, disease, and the conflict between modernity and ancient superstition. It was through later adaptations, especially in theatre and film, that Stoker's Count Dracula truly became a global cultural icon, far surpassing the initial impact of the book itself and embedding himself deep within popular culture. Section 5, Dracula on Screen, The Cinematic Awakening. The early days of cinema played a huge role in bringing Count Dracula to a wider audience. One of the first and most significant film adaptations was Nosferatu, Eine Symphonie des Grauens, Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, released in Germany in 1922. Directed by F.W. Murnau, this silent film was an unauthorized version of Stoker's novel. To avoid copyright issues, names were changed. Count Dracula became Count Orlok. Despite these changes, Orlok, with his gaunt appearance and rat-like fangs, was undeniably Dracula. The film's eerie atmosphere and striking visuals were highly influential. A few years later, across the Atlantic, Universal Pictures produced its official adaptation, Dracula, in 1931. This film starred the Hungarian actor Bela Lugosi in the title role. Lugosi's portrayal was very different from Max Schreck's Orlok in Nosferatu. Lugosi's Dracula was suave, aristocratic, and mesmerizing. He wore a formal tuxedo and a flowing cape and spoke with a distinctive Hungarian accent. This performance, with his hypnotic gaze and deliberate speech, cemented the popular image of Dracula for decades to come. It became the template for many future vampires. Bela Lugosi's depiction of Count Dracula became truly iconic. His elegant yet menacing presence captivated audiences. He delivered lines like "I am Dracula and I never drink real wine" with a unique cadence that became instantly recognizable and often imitated. For many people, Bela Lugosi was Dracula. He embodied the vampire count so completely that it became difficult to separate the actor from the role. His performance set a standard against which subsequent portrayals would be measured for many years. These early films, Nosferatu and Universal's Dracula, took certain liberties with Bram Stoker's original story. They simplified plots and changed characters. However, their impact was immense. They transformed Dracula from a literary character into a visual icon, a figure known throughout the world. They demonstrated the incredible power of cinema to shape and popularize myths. The visual representation of Dracula, particularly Lugosi's version, became as important, if not more so, than the descriptions in Stoker's novel for many people. Section 6. The Count's Enduring Reign. Evolution in Modern Media. Since those early cinematic appearances, Count Dracula has been reimagined and reinterpreted countless times. He has appeared in hundreds of films, television series, books, comic books, and even stage plays. Each new generation of creators seems to find something new to explore in his character. He is incredibly adaptable, capable of being portrayed as a terrifying monster, a tragic romantic hero, a cunning villain, or even a comedic figure. This flexibility is a key reason for his enduring presence in popular culture across the globe. In the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the British film company Hammer Film Productions revitalized the Dracula myth. Their series of Dracula films, often starring Christopher Lee as the Count, presented a different kind of vampire. Lee's Dracula was more overtly menacing and physical than Lugosi's. He was often silent, exuding a powerful, predatory aura. These films were shot in vibrant color, a stark contrast to the black and white of earlier versions, and they often featured more explicit violence and sensuality, pushing the boundaries of horror at the time. More recent portrayals of Dracula have continued to explore different aspects of his complex persona. For example, Francis Ford Coppola's 1992 film Bram Stoker's Dracula attempted to link the Count more closely to the historical Vlad the Impaler and presented him as a tragic figure driven by lost love. Other interpretations have focused on his immense power and intellect, while some have even cast him as an anti-hero, a dark protector, or a misunderstood outsider. The character constantly evolves to reflect contemporary anxieties and interests. The reach of Dracula extends far beyond traditional film and literature. He was a popular character in video games, often appearing as a formidable final boss or a central figure in complex narratives. Anime and manga from Japan have also offered unique and stylish interpretations of the vampire lord. This constant reinvention across various media platforms ensures that Dracula remains relevant and fascinating to new audiences. He is a timeless character, always ready for his next transformation in the world of entertainment. Section 7. Beyond the silver screen. Dracula's cultural imprint. The influence of Count Dracula extends far beyond the realms of movies and books. He's made a significant mark on various aspects of our culture, including tourism. Bran Castle in Romania, for instance, is heavily marketed as Dracula's castle. While its historical connection to Vlad the Impaler is somewhat tenuous, millions of tourists flock there every year. They are drawn by the mystique of Dracula, hoping to catch a glimpse of the world that inspired the legend. This demonstrates the economic power of a well-told story. The distinctive aesthetic associated with Dracula has also had a lasting impact on fashion and various subcultures. Gothic fashion, with its preference for dark colors, elegant yet somber clothing, and dramatic makeup, often draws inspiration from the classic image of the vampire, especially Dracula. The look embodies mystery, romance, and a certain rebellion against mainstream styles. This enduring appeal shows how a fictional character can influence real-world trends and personal expression for many people. Dracula is also a central figure in seasonal celebrations, particularly Halloween. Around the world, people dress up as Dracula with his signature cape, fangs, and pale complexion. His image adorns decorations, and he is a common character in haunted houses and Halloween parties. He has become one of the quintessential symbols of the spooky and fun aspects of this holiday. His presence is almost expected, a testament to how deeply ingrained he is in our cultural understanding of all things eerie and thrilling. Furthermore, the name Dracula itself has transcended its fictional origins to become a powerful metaphor. It is often used as a synonym for any kind of vampire or blood-sucking entity, whether literal or figurative. In a metaphorical sense, it can describe a person or system that drains resources, energy, or life from others. He has become a cultural shorthand for a specific type of predatory evil or insatiable hunger, showing how a literary creation can permeate our language and understanding of the world. Section 8. The historian's gaze, separating man from monster. As someone who studies history, I find the phenomenon of Dracula endlessly captivating. The way the historical figure of Vlad III has merged with the fictional Count Dracula is a remarkable case study in how legends are made. The line between the man and the monster has become incredibly blurred over time. It presents a fascinating challenge for historians to try and separate these two distinct entities. Yet this very act of separation is crucial if we wish to achieve a clearer understanding of both the historical period and the literary creation. When we examine the historical sources related to Vlad the Impaler, we must do so with a careful and critical eye. Many of the contemporary accounts, especially those from German or Ottoman sources, were written by his enemies. They often served as propaganda designed to demonize him and justify actions taken against him. Other sources might be biased in different ways. Therefore, historians must meticulously analyze these documents, considering the context in which they were written, to piece together a more balanced picture of Vlad and his tumultuous 15th century world. Bram Stoker's Count Dracula, on the other hand, is primarily a work of fiction. While Stoker borrowed the name Dracula and was inspired by some historical details about Vlad and Transylvania, his character is largely his own invention. The Count's vampiric nature, his supernatural powers, and his specific narrative arc in the novel are products of Stoker's imagination, not a direct reflection of Vlad the Impaler's life or beliefs. It is important to remember that the novel is not, and was never intended to be, a historical biography. Despite this distinction, the myth created by Stoker has proven to be incredibly powerful. For many people around the world, the fictional image of Count Dracula has almost completely overshadowed the historical figure of Prince Vlad III. The vampire of literature and film is often what comes to mind first, rather than the 15th century Wallachian ruler. This blending of fact and fiction, of history and horror, is a significant part of Dracula's enduring appeal and his complex legacy. It makes him a uniquely challenging and intriguing subject. Section 9. The lingering enigma, Dracula's undying mystery. So, after exploring his history and his legend, who truly was King Dracula? Was he primarily the cruel, impaling Prince of Wallachia, a man whose brutality shocked even his own violent era? Or is he more accurately defined as the literary monster crafted by Bram Stoker, the immortal Count, with an insatiable thirst for blood? Perhaps he is a complex mixture of all these things, a figure whose identity shifts depending on who is telling the story. The questions surrounding his true nature continue to fascinate and elude definitive answers. The historical Vlad III was undeniably a product of his ruthless times. He ruled with an iron fist, and his methods of punishment were extraordinarily harsh, even by the standards of the 15th century. His campaigns of impalement were designed to instill terror and maintain control, but was he uniquely evil, a monster unlike any other ruler? Or was he a desperate leader, employing extreme measures in a desperate struggle to defend his small principality against overwhelming odds? Historians continue to debate his motives and his legacy. The fictional Count Dracula, as imagined by Stoker and reimagined by countless others, taps into some of our most fundamental human fears. He represents the fear of death, the horror of the unknown, and the dread of losing one's identity and free will. He embodies the seductive power of darkness and the terror of being preyed upon by something ancient and unstoppable. It is this ability to personify our deepest anxieties that gives the character of Dracula such enduring power. allowing him to continue to haunt our collective imagination. Ultimately, perhaps the true essence of Dracula lies precisely in this enduring ambiguity. He exists in the space where documented history meets imaginative folklore, where the real man connects with the supernatural creature. He is a historical figure wrapped in layers of legend, a name that evokes both a 15th century prince and a timeless vampire. It is this very mystery, this refusal to be easily defined as either holy man or holy monster, that keeps Dracula alive in our culture, forever fascinating and forever enigmatic.